Good. Okay, we're up to Perek Tesvav, the 15th chapter. Bedarche Kniyas HaPrishus, the way in which a person acquires prishus. We defined prishus last week as Kaddish Atzmicha B'Mutalach, which means that we can't do averis, we can't rob banks, right? And not only can we not rob banks, you also have to be sensitive to the more subtle parts of the Isser of Geneva. So the famous Mesillas of Rabbi Salanter that someone in the Beis Medrash opened the window in the winter because he was hot. And Rabbi Yisrael yelled at him, Ganav. Because the woman lives upstairs. Now, if it gets colder in the Beis Medrash, it gets colder in her apartment, and she has to use more wood to heat up her house, and you're causing her to lose money. So that's Zahirus. That's Nikias. That's the more subtle. It's not mamish gneva. You're not putting your hand in someone else's pocket, but there is an element of gneva. And then now we come to precious. So precious is what's mutter, but I'm afraid that if I indulge, if I get involved in this endeavor that's mutter, I'm afraid that's going to lead to some issur. Right. So therefore, I stay away from it. That's precious. But for example, a person knows, let's say he has taivas achila. He likes eating food. He enjoys food. So you can have 2 pieces of challah on Shabbos. You can have 2 pieces of cake also for dessert. It's not nevera. This person knows, if I start with the cake, then it's gonna be a problem. So I'm not gonna have any cake. I'll have a small piece. Someone told me the Shabbos there was a certain person, I'm not gonna tell you who it is, who was at one point in time was makbid to have his whole foods diet. He only ate whole foods. I'm not saying who it is.
Only what?
Probably not. Whole Foods is a store. It's
from Whole Foods.
From Whole Foods.
Right.
So he had a certain diet, and this diet, I guess Whole Foods came up with the diet, and coincidentally, the diet restricted you to eat only Whole Foods, right? Okay.
That's no coincidence.
Because we'll have the Stiebel diet soon, right? Daniel will make the Stiebel diet. You must only eat chocolate. That's right. So someone who's at someone's house, he used to bring his food to people's houses on Shabbos. He wasn't embarrassed. It's very important. His health was important. So someone offered him a glass of water, and he wouldn't take the glass of water because he only drank Whole Foods water. So the guy said, "Come on! I mean, water is H2O. Water is water. What's the big?" He says, "No, but if I am makil on this, then I'll end up eating other things also not from Whole Foods." And he's right. That what he did was correct in my eyes. That it was very important to him to keep to this diet, and he felt it's either all or nothing. That's precious. You think that's mamish precious, because if you call up Mr. Whole Foods or Dr. Whole Foods, he's going to tell you can have water. That's not a problem. This person felt that no, I want to be parish, kaddish atzmecha b'mutalach. I want to be parish because I know if I don't do this, it might come the day in aveira. In other words, eating chas shalom, an apple or something. I don't know something. So that is the concept of precious. Now, Perek Tesvav discusses darche kniyas haprecious. How does a person acquire precious? And I think what the Mesillas spells out here is lavdavka. It's not specifically precious. It's really anything in Yiddishkeit, anything you're trying to work on, and it's a big chiddush. Why is it a big chiddush? Because I think we often don't think this way, and therefore we struggle a lot with Yiddishkeit. But if we were to approach it the way he lays it down over here, it would be easy. It's really easy, but there's one point that we're missing, and the truth is, this is not just relevant to precious. It's relevant to anything. It's relevant to a relationship. There are relationships in our lives that we know intellectually they're important to us, but sometimes there's always tension and there's skirmishes back and forth. And why is that? I know it's an important relationship, and I always do the wrong thing, and I mess up, and I have to come back and apologize. Why is it that I keep on getting myself into these situations? How come I don't act the appropriate way? So I think we can really copy paste what he says by precious and apply it to really anything in life. So he says that the way to become a parish, which is difficult because the thing is mutter, right, and I have to hold back from it, is there's two ways to become a parish. There's 2 things you have to do. Number one, you have to look at how low and how unimportant the tanugei olam hazeh are, the pleasure of this world, how fleeting it is and how not important it is, and then also look at the bad that it can lead to, all the ra'os, all the bad things that this can lead to. Because why does a person, let's take food, because he'll get into food in a second. Why does a person overindulge in food? Because his eye sees it, and it looks really good. That piece of cake looks really good, right? And he doesn't think about the fact that it can lead to diabetes, or high blood pressure, or stop being overweight is not a good thing. And he doesn't see that. All he sees is that it looks good. It looks good, and he goes after it. The eyes covet, and then the person goes after it. Says the Mesillas Yesharim, if a person contemplates and he realizes that good is not really good, it's koizev legamre, it's not true, it's false. And a person contemplates that the bad that's going to come from me having this fourth piece of cake is true. Says the Mesillas Yesharim, he's going to loathe that piece of cake. If he thinks about how the pleasure I get from this piece of cake is fleeting, it does not really make me happy, and he thinks about the bad that's going to come from it, the lifestyle that's going to come from it is true, all the negative results are true, he's automatically going to be disgusted by it. This is the entire limud he has to learn, to recognize the weakness of these pleasures and the falseness of these pleasures, to the point that it's not hard for him to get rid of it. In other words, if I'm battling my Yetzer Hara with the piece of cake in front of me, I miss the boat to a large extent. The Nakuda to steig, to grow in Yiddishkeit, is not to have a battle with the Yetzer Hara. Should I get out of bed, should I not get out of bed? Should I eat, should I not eat? It's before the milchama, before the war starts, a person has to think to himself, okay, I know that every night I come home and I walk to the kitchen and I take out a piece of cake or a cookie, whatever it is, right? Some of us might do that, I don't know, right? So I do that all the time. And I know that the doctor said I have to eat more healthy, and I know at least whatever. So if a person sits and thinks, do I really get pleasure from that? Does it really, instead let me have an apple and a carrot, instead of having if a person contemplates that, he thinks about that to the point that he realizes that this is not the right thing to do, then it will be easy to not succumb to that Yetzer Hara. But the mistake I think we make is that often we get into the battle, and then once we're there, we try to fight with the Yetzer Hara, and we win sometimes, we lose sometimes. But the real Nakuda is, what makes Yiddishkeit easy in a sense, is the Iker Avodah, the main work is in the contemplation, is in thinking about it. And if a person thinks, like he says over here, he says, let's take food. He says, how long does the pleasure last for? The mouth can only be machzik so much, can only hold so much. The base of bliyah, 2 kibbutz and 1 kibbutz, that's all it can hold. So it's that small amount of food, it's in your mouth for less than 3 seconds, and you swallow it. Once you're full, then you could have eaten anything. You could have eaten rocks and you'd be full, right? Once you have that full feeling in the stomach, what does it make difference what you ate? It doesn't make difference what you ate. So you tell me, for those few seconds as it's passing down, let's say you feel hungry. So you can go for the Mesillas, you can go for the shop with Bar Eggs, right? So for those few seconds, that's what, and all the health issues that are going to happen down the line, is it worth it? If a person thinks and contemplates that, he'll get to a point where he's not going to want to do that, right? Says the Mesillas Yesharim, if a person accustoms himself to doing that and he does it often, slowly but surely he will free himself from that desire. He will not be seduced by these pleasures, and he'll actually not want to eat it at all. So that is the Nakuda. Says the Mesillas Yesharim, is the thinking. This we don't do, especially in this generation. We don't do that because we're always bombarded by information. If I can come back to my recurring theme throughout all this, is that wherever we go, there's always something to look at, always something to see, always something to hear. Baruch Hashem, it's good that we can listen to Shiur, but gone are the days where you're sitting in a car and there's just nothing to do but think, right? So we don't think as much as our predecessors did. We just don't think as much, and therefore it's a chaval that we miss out on this. But the point is, says Mesillas Yesharim, we have to have this hisboidedus, we have to have this thinking contemplate, pick one area that a person feels he needs to be mechazik in, and just every day take 5 minutes. It sounds funny in this day and age to talk in these terms, but take 5 minutes every day and think about how, my approach to food is not the correct approach. My approach to my bein adam lechaveira is not the correct approach. To be mizbaining, and then once a person is mizbaining, the mind is the strongest organ that we have. And if I can rewire myself and I can recognize the negative of whatever the taiva is, then it'll be easy. And the danger in precious, as that's how it ends the parak, the danger in precious is a person might go too fast. Right? So what's going to happen? You have this inspiring shiur this morning, right? So you're going to come home, and that's it. You're only going to have like a small... What? You'll have like a small piece of bread and water for breakfast, and then you're going to have for lunch also just like a piece of cheese, and dinner. That's not going to last. In everything in life, right? It has to be small steps, slow, small. That's the danger in precious. With precious, we're leaving the Shulchan Aruch, right? This is not Shulchan Aruch. This is already beyond the Shulchan Aruch. And the person has to tailor make it for himself. So a person can really go off. You see people that totally lose it when it comes to precious because there's no clearly defined path. Because every person, he has to make his own Shulchan Aruch in a sense, what he has to distance himself from. So the avodah for this week will be the hisbaidedus, to sit, pick one thing. I'm going to pick achila, food. Everyone has to pick one thing and one area where they see that they're going off. It's not a good thing what they're doing, and sit for 5 minutes. Now 5 minutes, a nebuch, it's a long time in this day and age. 5 minutes, 60 seconds times 5. I have to sit with like nothing else and focus. I guarantee you, if we try this, our minds will wander. Because we're not used to focusing. It's a good thing anyway, forget Yiddishkeit. It's a good thing to do, just to focus for 5 minutes without anything else. How is turn off the phone. Don't put it on silent. Turn off the phone. Turn it off. And just sit for 5 minutes and think about whatever area it is and how what I'm doing is wrong. And then you'll see, ma'atma, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to go from 5 pieces of cake to no piece of cake overnight, but you'll see, slowly you'll create a culture within yourself where you're not going to want to do that. So the avodah for this week is 5 minutes a day. Think about one area, contemplate, and you'll see in 7 days' time, next week, if we do this, next week this time, I think we'll see a recognizable change in his behavior.